What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy. And as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. Just want to say thank you to all of our supporters, anyone that follows us online, shares our content, buys our merch, all of our student in our By the Hood University courses. Just want to say thank you to all of you guys. My partner in crime is with me as always. Corey, what's up, bro?
I'm living, man. Glad to be breathing and glad to be, in good health, man.
Yeah. In 2020, that's saying a lot, right? It's
Yeah.
a crazy year, man. But as you people know, we like to highlight brothers and sisters that look just like us that are doing amazing things in the community. And this gentleman that we have here, it's funny, right? Before we came on, I thought that he was the actual founder of this amazing organization called Diversified Community Services, but he's the executive director. Which is amazing because when you look it up, like I love the work they're doing, and you look up the organization, his face is all over there. So you're synonymous with that. But we we have the attorney, community activist, Otis Bullock Jr. is in the building. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I appreciate you you having me here, and it's interesting that what you say about Diversified because everybody say that. I get calls from people who want to start nonprofits, right? And they think that I started this one. And I tell them, I've never started a nonprofit. I run a nonprofit, but I've never started one, right? And it really was all a part of, my overall plan. I did want to put my name on this, but this was a historically white organization. I'm the first Black person to run it that service a predominantly African American population. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is change that narrative. Why is it that we're good enough to serve, we're good enough to work at organizations, but when it comes time to running these organizations, we're not good enough to run the organizations that service our people. So I'm trying to change that narrative.
Man, I heard that. It's powerful, right? All right, so tell us a little bit about your background. What city you from? What schools did you attend?
So I'm Philly, born and raised.
What part of
grew
Philly?
up with both north and west. I gotta claim both because if I don't, then my
I
folks
understand. We got
my
you.
folks will get me. I was born on 17th and Jefferson in north central Philly, and then at about the age of 10, my father moved us out to Mantua, which is also known as the Black Bottom. So from birth to 10, I was up north. From age 10 until I went off to college, I was in Mantua with my mom still in north. My mother and father went together, so I kind of went back and forth between north and west. And then after graduating from law school, I came back to North Philly with my wife and started my family here. So I'm still in North Philly, so I gotta claim both. If I don't claim West, my folks out there that they'll
got you. Man, that's interesting, man. Listen, for those from Philly, we already know 17th and Jefferson is a notorious little corner right there. So if you know, you know. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when you went away to school, where'd you go undergrad?
I went to Westchester. Actually, that's where I met Corey. Corey's my man from Westchester. We had a nice crew there at Westchester. We still tight to this day, all of us.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right. And to be honest, I'm not a person who have like a large circle of friends, and really the only real people that I consider my friends are the ones from college and before that I still have contact with. So yeah, I went to Westchester University, got my degree in political science there, and then from there I went off to law school at Temple Law and got my law degree.
Nice. So is the law something that you always wanted to get into, or something that, or was it always politics? What was your interest that made you take this journey?
It was both. I kind of had a grand plan as a kid. Since I was 8 years old, I wanted to be a lawyer. But the reason I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer for my people. I want to be a person that can be a resource for my people and that can bring resources back into the community. So I wasn't one of those people who wanted to, go to school and then go off to the suburbs and live, in a big house out there. I really wanted to become a lawyer so I could have access to resources and bring those resources back to my community. And I wanted to do politics too. So I had this all lined up. I didn't do any of this stuff, by the way. I had it all lined up. go to school, go to college, go to law school, become a lawyer, do civil rights law for about 10, 15 years, and then parlay that civil rights career into a career in politics. Kind of like, a Adam Clayton Powell, type of person.
Understood.
Where he was
Got you.
like a preacher, but he's also was a congressman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really how I wanted to parlay that, because I figured my experience doing the civil rights work would get me into politics, and I can go down to Congress, be down in Washington D.C., and really make some change for our communities. Now, none of that happened. The only thing that happened is I became a lawyer, and I hated it. Right. That's the only thing that happened.
So let's talk about that, though. Let's talk about that, right? So you spend all this time, like, get into this place where you think you want to go, and then you start, and you hate it, right? But it takes courage to kind of like, make a shift there, especially when so much has been invested in that. So what was that like?
Well, I grew up, really following the civil rights movement, and all everything that I read was about that, right? So, which is why I wanted to be a lawyer. You think about Thurgood Marshall, where he was able to have a lot of stuff overturned, argue in front of the Supreme Court, and then eventually become a Supreme Court justice. So I'm thinking along those lines. But when I got to law school, what I found is that the law is really about maintaining the status quo, right? Everything that you do is based upon precedent, what we've been doing. So if what we've been doing, is unjustified, the law says we still got to keep on doing that, right? So it wasn't a lot, of people really in law school, trying to do it on the strength. Folks was trying to make money. They're trying to get up into the big firms, and if you're not doing that, then you was basically considered a failure.
Yeah, that's an actual fact. What you just said right there is a fact. I went to law school as well, and what you said is an actual fact. But it's like if you're not trying to jump into corporate law and make a gazillion dollars, like they look at you like an alien.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, that's the one thing. And the second thing is, I just want to ask you about your experience, because when I was in law school, it was like 4 or 5 of us in the whole spot. So what was the representation when you were there? What was that like?
So when I came to Temple, and Temple was considered diverse. So keep this in mind. This was better than most, right? We had a class of 300. Out of the 300, we had 20 Black people. Out of the 20 Black people, only 6 of us were Black males. And I think like half of us, or more than half of the Black males, actually failed their first year, including me. I failed my first year. So typically you do a full-time program in law school, you do three years. I did 4 years because I failed my first year. And a lot of people don't know that. They look at me now and they be like, oh man, you're so intelligent. Like, how could you fail your first year of law school? That it doesn't seem like you will be the type of person who had ever failed. But the culture just wasn't set up for us in that way. And it's not just coming in and being Black, but also coming in and being from a different socioeconomic background. So the other Black students that were there, a lot of them weren't poor like I was. They didn't lack the resources that like I did. Some of them, were coming from the Black middle class. So even those folks, I couldn't relate to them. They couldn't relate to me. When I got to law school, I was rocking, like cornrows, because at the time Allen Iverson was the man, right?
Yes.
I'm coming to school with cornrows and jerseys, which is not unusual in college. But in law school, they looking at me like, "What's wrong with you? Why you dressing like that?"
They looking at you like, "Do you need representation?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So in law school was like the first time that I felt like I didn't even belong in a group of Black people. I expected racism from white folk, but I didn't expect to be looked down upon by my own people. And that was the first time that had ever happened. I had come from college where I was like the president of the Black Student Union. I was like Mr. Black Man, they called me Brother Malcolm. And when I get to law school, everything was much more subdued and middle class, and a middle class lifestyle that I just didn't understand because I didn't come from it.
Yeah. So when you decided, like, this just isn't for me, right? So you said the law is about the
Yeah,
precedent, right? So I get that.
yeah.
But that takes courage. How long did it take you to make that decision? Like, I'm going to go look to something else because I understand the kind of courage that takes to invest so much time, like I said, into one thing and then just make that shift.
Well, you know what's interesting? I made the decision probably it was right after law school because law school was tough for me. You know, just anyway. You know, I had professors trying to get me put out. I had a lot of stuff going on in law school because they just didn't like me. They didn't like my attitude. They didn't like my approach. And what they try to do is it's almost like they try to they try to break you. They you know they want you to believe that because you're in this certain club of people that you're better than everybody else. And for me, it was important for me to really hold on to who I was, the core of who I was and where I came from, because I knew the people that I wanted to serve. Look, if I came out of law school acting different, it wouldn't mean anything. It wouldn't make a damn difference where I came from because they were like, bro, you ain't the same, right? So I couldn't lose that. So that grit that I had from coming from North Philly, from coming from the bottom, I needed to keep it because I knew if I was going to lead my people, I still gotta, kind of come out with that grit, come out with that swag, or else they're not going to believe it, right?
Yeah.
But law school try to clean you all up and try to polish you all up, and I wasn't trying to be polished. So I had a hard time just getting through law school as it was. And the only thing that got me through law school is that, you know, I had to take out $20,000 in student loans like that first year, and that's the only thing that kept me there. Because I'm like, I'm not gonna leave here 20,000 in debt and no degree. That ain't happening, right? So I stuck it through just for that. I'm like, if I'm going to be in debt, I'm at least come out with this degree, and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll figure out, what's going to happen after I get out of here. And really, what changed my mind about finding new ways to use my skills and to use my law degree was an experience that I had with the public defender's office. I interned for the Philadelphia Public Defender's Office for about 3 years while I was in law school. I interviewed I I interned for the city office, but I also interned for the federal office too. So
Okay.
I was like Mr. Public Defender. Like I was at the public defender's office so much that other attorneys thought that I worked there. They didn't know that I was just an intern. And it was supposed to be basically like almost guaranteed that I was going to get a job there, which to me was the next best thing to being a civil rights attorney. Going in, representing people who can't represent themselves, getting them out of jail, fighting the system. I was all about that, and I was a damn good trial attorney. But what happened when it came time to give out the jobs? Um, what the public defender's office did is they threw my transcript back in front of my face. So they told me for 3 years that grades wouldn't matter. And then when it came time to give me a job, they pulled out my grades.
Ooh, that's
Right?
that's nasty.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, right, and they telling me, yeah, Otis, we love you. You're like family. You've been here for 3 years. All the attorneys in here speak very highly of you. All these accolades, right? But we need to discuss something. And he pulls out my transcript and he slides my transcript in front of me. So because I failed my first year of law school, I was placed upon academic probation. Being on academic probation, I had to redo my entire first year of law school, right? So I got all new grades. So those grades for the first year didn't count. But what they do on your transcript is they keep them there. So even though they don't count towards your GPA, they keep them there so that people can see it, kind of jacking you up. So even though I had a good GPA, they still could see that I was on academic probation my first year. So he pushes the transcript in front of me, and he said, "Let's talk about that." I slide it back over, and I said, "Let's not." you know,
Yeah, let's not talk about that at all.
right? So he
We-
slides it back over, and he's like, "I think we should." And I was like, "I don't see the point. I've been with y'all for 3 years. You know my work. You don't need a transcript to tell you whether I'm good or not, right?" Either you like me or you don't. So he said, well, obviously we like you, because if we didn't like you, we wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. So for me, that was like strike number one, because you treat me like I need you, right? And in my mind, you need me. This office needs me, right? You know, I'm the kid from North Philly. When these clients walk in here and they tell me about how they got locked up at 15th and Styles, I know exactly where 15th and Styles is. I know the Chinese store that they was in, you know, and I know the story that they telling me is bullshit based upon real knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And no white kid from NYU or Penn or wherever the hell they went to the law school gonna know that stuff, right? When they're telling me the stories about how the police locked them up for no reason, you got the white kid going, that's bullshit. That don't make sense. And I'm saying it make plenty of sense to me. That sounds about right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I feel you. I feel you.
You know?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all need me, and you treating me like I need y'all, right? And you got me sitting here wanting me to like kind of like beg for a job when y'all know the work that I do is good work. So then he goes into this spiel. Well, you know, we have a history of African American men not passing the bar. I'm like, well, what that got to do with me? I'm going past the bar. And he's like, based upon your grades, I don't think that you are. So I'm like, well,
Wow.
I'm yeah. He told me straight up. So he was like, here's what we're gonna do. He said, we're gonna give you, and this was different. Usually the way it works, they give you an offer, right? You accept the offer. You take the bar in July. You get your results sometimes in September or October. By that time, you had already started the job. So you find out whether you passed or whether you failed after you start the job. And if you fail, you get another shot in February to take it again. And if you fail again, then they let you go. But what they did with me, because they already determined in their mind that I wasn't going to pass the bar, they said, we're going to give you a conditional offer. And it's conditioned upon you passing the bar. So if you pass the bar, then you can come and you can work for us in the spring. If you don't
Oh,
pass the
whoa.
bar, in the spring, yeah. If you don't pass the bar, then you just don't have it. You won't have a job. You don't have an offer. And I'm sitting there like, what kind of fucking bullshit is this, right? So you're just gonna switch it up for me because I'm a black male and you don't think I'm gonna pass the bar? And I'm like, all right, I'll take that offer. Because one thing I learned to do, I don't always put my cards on the table. So I walked out of that room with no expectation of ever working for the public defender's office. So what I was going to do is I was going to go past the bar and I was going to go about my business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was going to do. And then later on that summer, they called me up and they was like, well, look, we got a couple extra slots in our training program. Because typically when they hired a new crop of attorneys, they normally hire like a crop of 20, 22 attorneys every year.
Yeah.
And the Philly Public Defender's Office got like the best training in the country, like hands down. There's nobody better. So when they called me up and was like, you can come and you can sit in and do our training, even though I officially didn't have an offer, I took it because what I was planning to do, I was planning to go open my own law practice. So in planning to open my own law practice, I'm not going to turn down, the training that they're going to give me.
Yeah.
So I'm in the training and I'm sitting there. All the attorneys know me, right? They don't know none of these other new cats that they hired, right? But they know me. And all the attorneys don't know that I'm not really a part of the class. They don't know that I'm not hired, right? So I'm sitting there with 21 people that they hired. They didn't hire me, but I'm in the class with them. They dumb as shit, right? They don't know nothing. I know everything. And all the attorneys are like, if y'all have any questions, y'all can ask Otis. And I'm sitting here like, but I'm a mug kid without a job, right? But they need to ask me, right? And the thing that happened, I don't know if it was fate or not. During this time, this was like this 2004. In 2003, I had the great fortune to have one of my former chess coaches. He blew up and became like a big time nationally acclaimed principal. And he wrote a book called I Choose to Stay.
Yo, I'm reading that right now.
I'm in that book. The last chapter of
Ah,
that book is
I didn't
about
get there
me.
yet. I didn't even
Yeah,
get there yet.
yeah,
Interesting.
so in that book, the last chapter of his book is about me. He wrote about me because I was his first student to graduate from college. So
You-
the name of the chapter is called I Need More Graduations. But he talk about how
Here's
many
what's crazy about what's crazy about that, right? I didn't know this
yeah.
coming into this, and I'm currently reading the book. But earlier, when you said something about what law school does to you, it reminded me of the book because I'm currently reading it. When he
Yeah.
talks about him going to Masterman and,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
going to the school and how they try to make him feel about where he comes from, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing you were saying about law school. They try to make you feel
Same
as though
thing.
you're better than. Like, so it kind of reminded me of his book, and I'm thinking that in my head as you said that, and I didn't even know that that there was an affiliation there, which is interesting. But and that's something also to just go back real fast about that because I see that happening at a lot of colleges. And don't let it be someone that comes from an Ivy League. Oh God, it's even worse.
Lord.
Right, 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 right.
But law school, I also understand that too. How it's like you're part of this elite group, and it's kind of and this bothers me to no end. And Corey knows I talk about this ad nauseum. How some of our folks look down on not only their people but their own
Yeah,
family and where they come from. And I
absolutely.
see that with a lot of college graduates, and then as you move up the chain, masters, it gets worse. And some of these Ivy League PhDs, you might as well forget about it. Like they're
And I,
you,
I and I never bought into that. I never bought into that. It's the reason why I live in Strawberry Mansion right now. You come to my house, I'm in the hood, and people ask me, well, do you feel safe for you and your family? I'm safer here than I would be out in the suburbs. I would be afraid for my two black boys out in the suburbs, but I'm not afraid here. Ain't nobody messing with me and my boys and my family here
yep.
because I never sold out. I never bought into the whole narrative that because I went to college and I went to law school. Now somehow I'm better than my people. I'm not better.
You literally bought in the hood. I was there when you
Right.
did your housewarming. You literally
Yeah.
in the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
I relate to that. Like I'm the same way. I
So it's
moved.
Joe.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
moved away and moved back. Like this is where I belong because I
Right.
want people to see that that people like me and you exist. That
Yeah.
you can be a professional and have things going on for you, but still be a part of the community. So,
Yeah.
but that's interesting. That whole part you being part of the book. Now I got to go finish the book up
Yeah.
to see. That's interesting to hear that though. But that's dope though because that's a
So
good
so
book.
I so I was in the book, right? So that was the good fortune. I didn't know he was going to write a book, and I didn't know I was going to be in it. And what he was doing is, I mean, the book was doing really well, and he was taking me around with him during his while he was doing his book events. So then that got me to doing speaking engagements with him, right? So I really didn't really need this job. I wanted it, but I didn't need it. And what happened while we were in training, which is unusual, the bar results came out early, and I passed. But I expected to pass, right? I wasn't surprised. I wasn't overly happy. It was like a matter of fact type thing, right?
Got you.
I passed. I expected to pass, right? I would have been disappointed if I didn't pass, but I'm not overly happy that I passed. I did what I was supposed to do. But a couple of those people that they hired instead of me didn't pass. Right? So I get called to the office, right? And I go in and they're like, congratulations. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, you passed. And I'm like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. I told y'all I was gonna pass, right? So they was like, so you know what that means, right? I'm like, yeah, I got an offer for the spring. I was not expecting to come back in the spring. Basically, what I was going to do is I was going to take their training. I was going to go out. I was going to start my own law practice. If I was successful, I wasn't coming back. And if I was unsuccessful, I'm like, all right, I got to fall back in the spring. I got a job in the spring, right?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking,
Got you,
right?
got you.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna go do some book tours with my teacher and make some money doing that because I started getting job offers because of the book. Like people was reading a book. I had a black firm up in Newark, New Jersey, that had given me an offer, but I didn't want to go up to Newark. But they gave me an offer just off the strength that they read the book and was inspired, and they wanted to give me an offer. So stuff like that was happening. I didn't need the public defender's office. So they're like, you know what that means? I'm like, yeah, I got an offer for the spring. And then he says, no, you're starting right now. And I stood there kind of like stone faced. I didn't say anything. And he was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I made other plans. Like I can't start right now. And he was like, but I thought you said you wanted to be a public defender. I'm like, I did want to be a public defender until you like kicked me in the ass and told me I wasn't
Yeah.
nothing. And I mean, I'm not the type of person. Look, if you allow somebody to kick you in the ass once, they're gonna keep on doing it. I know how that game works, right? So if I had allowed them to do that then, and then I come in and act like I'm grateful to have a job, they're gonna kick my ass the whole time
Yep.
that I'm working for them. I know that. I learned that from my father. I learned that from North Philly.
Yep.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I'm like, no, I made other plans. And he's like, what do you mean you made other plans? I'm giving you an offer right now. I'm like, you told me. Now listen to this. You told me that the best case scenario for me, that if I passed, that I wouldn't be working until the spring. Would you want an employee that just basically like sat on his ass the whole time, like waiting the work in March? I made plans, man. So then what he did, he was like, well, I'm taking that offer off the table. It's either now or never. And I'm like,
All right,
I guess
never.
it's never.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's never.
Say less.
And I made that decision. I didn't even have a job. I didn't have a job when I made that decision. And I went back and I talked to all my mentors and all my teachers, and I really didn't like the advice that they were giving me. They was like, well, Otis, you can't turn down a job if you don't have a job. Everything was about, having a job. But for me, it wasn't about having a job. It was about having self-dignity, right? And that's one of the things that I preach to everybody that I mentor and everybody that I try to help. And I treat them with a certain amount of dignity. I want people to be able to have dignity. And you can't teach it, you can't preach it if you don't practice it yourself, right? So
Facts.
that's not the way I wanted to start off my career and letting people, kick me around in that way.
What was their response to because I heard you talk about how other firms and everything were inspired by the book,
Yeah.
and what was the public defenders? Did they know about the book or the fact that you were part of it?
No, they didn't know. They didn't know about the book, and I told them about the book, and they were kind of like on their high horse, like, well, Otis, are you trying to be a lawyer? Or are you trying to be a public speaker? My
Wow.
my thing is, why can't you be both? I could
Be
be both.
both.
You know, you know what I mean? You can't limit me and tell me what I can't do, right? Look, I could work for you during the day. I could go do my speaking engagements at night and on the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the work that I do here can inspire the work that I do there, and the work that I do there can inspire the work that I do there. But they didn't see it that way. So I turned the job down. I didn't have a job, but at the same time, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell had my resume, and she had called me. She called me for an interview to be her counsel for legislative aid and counsel. And I came in, I interviewed with her, and I asked her what was it about my resume that she liked, because at that point in time in my career, nobody wanted to hire me. Everybody was kicking me in the ass. The only notoriety that I got was from the book, but from my actual work as a law student, as an attorney, nobody was respecting that. So what's interesting, when I asked her what she liked about my resume, she said, oh, I didn't look at your resume. She never got past my cover letter. So what happened was, in my cover letter, because she represented West Philly, I spoke about how I grew up down the bottom, and that I remember when she first got elected in 1991. I was 12 years old, and I always respected her and her husband, Lucian Blackwell, because
Mm-hmm.
Lucian Blackwell used to be a council person. Then he became
Yeah, I'm familiar with the
the
family.
congressman.
Yeah.
Right. So I grew up in the district, and I grew up down the bottom, and I wrote that in my cover. And I told her the only thing I want to do is represent my people. That's all I want to do. That's all I wanted to do through law school. But they was acting like they were too good to let me do that, right?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't good enough to represent my people. And Janie Blackwell said, "Yeah, I read your cover letter, and you said you was from down the bottom, and I don't know any young lawyers to come from down the bottom. So I called you." And I'm like, okay. And basically the interview was like, she wasn't asking me nothing legal. She wasn't asking me anything professional. She was asking me who I knew. She wanted to make sure that she wanted to make sure, did you really live down the bottom or you just talking shit, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she had gotten she told me she had gotten another resume from this girl who had went to Penn, and she was acting like she lived in the district, but she's not really from the district. She just went to Penn.
She's from.
She wanted to know was I really from down the bottom. So she asked me if I know all these people, right? And she asked me about the ward leader. I didn't know the ward leader. She asked me like all these people because my family wasn't like politically involved. They wasn't involved in the community or anything like that. In fact, my dad was a drug dealer. So my family wasn't connected in that way to the community. But then she mentioned somebody's name that rung a bell. She asked me, do I know Rick Young? I'm like, yes. I know him. He used to cut my hair. In fact, Rick Young was my barber when I was a kid. And my stepmom used to cook dinners for the guys at the barbershop. And I used to deliver the dinners to the barbershop for them. And since then, Rick had kind of like blown up too. And he became more of a developer. So he used to be in the music business, right? And then he took his money from the music business to create other businesses like barber shops and stuff like that. And then as he continued to make money, he started to snatch up properties. So then he became a developer in the community. And then he used the money that he made as a developer to create a nonprofit to do like community development stuff. So he became real big. And I didn't know because I had been gone for 8 years, 4 years of college, 4 years of law school. Only thing I knew him as was he used to be my barber, right? But when she asked me did I know him, I was like, yeah, I do. I know him. I know him. And she was like, cool. Well, I'm gonna call Rick and see what he said. And at that point, I had been gone for like 8 years. So I didn't know. I didn't know
he might be like, I don't know who you're talking about.
So I'm down at City Hall, right? I go down. I jump on the L, ride straight to the bottom, right? Go back to the barbershop. I'm looking for Rick. So everybody in there, his brother, everybody in there. And they like, yo, man, where you been? How you been? And I'm like, look, I ain't got time to have a whole lot of rap right now. But, basically I went to college. I went to law school. And now I'm a lawyer. They're like, oh, you're a paralegal? No, I'm not a paralegal. I'm a lawyer.
He tried to play you.
Right, because everybody think, people do that. They go to, they go to Pierce or something, get their associates to be a paralegal, and they be like, oh, you're a lawyer. No, not a lawyer. You're paralegal. But so I'm like, basically, I'm looking for Rick. Where's Rick, right? And they be like, oh, well, he's right up the street. I'm gonna call him. They called him up. So I went and met Rick at like 35th and Haverford, basically like a block away from where I used to live. I grew up on 35th and Mount Vernon. 35th and Haverford is like basically a block away. So he's like, yo, what's up, man? What's going on? So I was like, look, Rick, man, I don't know if you remember me. And then he stopped me. He was like, yeah, I remember you. Your mom and your brothers and sisters ran down my whole family. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I just graduated from law school. I got my law degree. That's why I ain't been around. And he was like, yo, man, that's what's up, man. I'm proud of you. I was like, yeah, but I need you to do something for me. He was like, what's that? I said, I was just down at City Hall. I just had an interview with Janie Blackwell. He said, yeah, Janie, that's my girl, right? That's what's up. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying to get this job. And if she call you and ask you, do you know me? I need you to tell her that you know me and put in a good word for me. And he was like, no doubt, man, no doubt. And I ended up getting that job. And that's how I got into politics.
Now it's a story of, it's a lesson there about relationships. And how important relationships can be in terms of growing into who it is that you want to be. So That's important. And also reputation. Because you could have
Yep.
been a slime ball and you'd be like, remember me? He'd be like, yeah,
Yep.
you robbed me for this. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
so how you treat people, reputation, and
Exactly.
also just relationships are very important as you grow. So
And your work was speaking for you. And then the thing is, she didn't even look at your resume. She looked at your cover letter, which
That's
means
right.
you had the right mindset going into the job, which is what she
That's
was
right.
looking for.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
For
that's
sure. For
that's
sure.
that's all important stuff then. So that's how you got into politics. Now, how did you go from, all that working in City Hall or whatever? Tell us about Diversified Community Services, because you said that this organization has been around for years, but like, and,
Yeah.
and again, I said I've been on the site, I've been on the Facebook page, I see everything they got going on, and I'm very impressed.
Right.
But to me, you're synonymous with them. So,
Yeah.
and I guess when you told the story about it being a white-run organization, that's probably why I don't know about it. but with that being said, how did you get to that point and become executive director? How'd that all happen?
Well, it actually happened through a lot of politics, man. So first job out of law school was with Janie Blackwell, but by that time, while I was still trying to get the job with Janie Blackwell, I still was taking up cases. So I was basically doing cases out of my living room. My living room was my office, but I started picking up like some good cases. So when I got the job with Janie, I told Janie, I said, I still got some open cases and I wanna finish those out. I still want to do that while I'm working for you. So she allowed me to do that. And basically what that led to is me both working for Janie and still, kind of practicing law on the side.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the point when I started making more money practicing law on the side than I was making for working for Janie Blackwell, I left Janie Blackwell's office and I started to run my practice full time. And at this point in time, I had an office in North Philly, right up by 22nd in Indiana,
Okay.
and I had an office in Center City. So I had my Center City office for like my developer clients and stuff like that who
Hmm.
ain't trying to come to North Philly. But then I also had my North Philly office for my North Philly folks who wasn't trying to come to Center City, right? Um, so I did that for a couple years, and then and I'm gonna get to diversify, but all this
Oh, yeah,
preamble
yeah.
is
It's
important.
important. I want to see how you got there. Yeah.
After practicing for a couple years, I knew that I didn't want to practice for forever because I was doing family law and criminal law, and every case is like the same. It's like being in the Jerry Springer show, every day. And I felt like I was profiting off of people's problems, but I wasn't necessarily solving people's problems because your job as an attorney is to win the damn case. But sometimes winning the case ain't the best thing for your client. Sometimes they need more, right? And as an attorney, I couldn't give them more. Um, so I didn't think I was going to do that forever anyway. One day, it's like 2006. I'm walking down the street trying to grab some lunch. I ran into Michael Nutter, who was a city councilman at the time. He knew me and remembered me from when I worked for Janie Blackwell in city council. When you talk about reputation, this is where reputation, comes into play. So he stopped me. He's like, "Oh, hey, Otis, man, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing good. What you been up to?" Doing my law thing, my office down the street. I'm doing well. He said, "Well, I don't know if you've been following the news or not, but I'm serious about trying to make this run for mayor, and I could use young talent like you." Uh, and I was like, "All right, I'm down." Look, I gave him my business card. I'm like, "Call me," and I kept it moving. Well, he did call me. Long story short, I ended up joining his campaign. Um, but this is an important point about how it happened too, because Michael Nutter and Janie Blackwell did not get along. Like they hated each other. They was like enemies.
No, I mean I knew that. I was gonna get to
Yeah,
that. Ask you how
I
that
was
how
gonna
that
ask.
worked out.
Yeah,
Yeah. They hated each other, and I still had a good relationship with Janie Blackwell. In fact, she got me a lot of my business, in my law practice, because now when legal matters came to her office, she referred them to me, which is partially why my business was going well, right? And most people would think there's no way you can get away with, working for Michael Nutter on his campaign and still maintaining a good relationship with Janie Blackwell. I was able to do that. Basically, what I told Mike, I said, "Look, Mike, I want to do this, but before I do, I gotta go talk to Janie, right?" He was like, "Yeah, I know, because you can't hear it secondhand. You gotta hear it from the horse's mouth,
Yep.
or else it's a betrayal." So I go to Janie's office, and I'm sitting down with her. We busting it up. Everything's all good. And I was like, Councilwoman, everything that I accomplished up to this point, it's all because of you. You taught me everything that I know about politics. You put me in position, and I'm really, appreciative of that. And so, you gotta pump her up first, right? And so she's like, thank you, Otis. I love you, and all this, and that, and the other. And I say, which is why I'm here. I need to ask you something. So I was like, look, Michael asked me to work on his campaign, and I want to do it. I'm gonna be honest, I want to do it. And but if you tell me not to do it, I won't do it. But I'm saying that I really do want to do this, right? And she was like, go ahead, do it. I'm like, for real? Word? And she was like, yeah. She was like, it'll be a good experience for you. You'll meet people with him that you won't meet with me, because he'll be able to introduce you to a whole lot more people. You'll meet some business people. It'll be good for your for your law practice. She was like, he ain't gonna win, but it'll be good for you.
She still went at his neck.
Yeah. But right off the back, she was just like very supportive of me, right? It was like I was like her political son, and in that instance, she didn't treat me like an employee or a former employee. She treated me like family, and she wanted to do what was best for her family.
He gave you dignity the same way that you look to do with other people.
Right, exactly. But then I came at her and I was honest, right? She's like, it's a lot of snakes in this business,
Man,
right?
most people wouldn't even have went to her. They would have told Mike, I'm with you. And that would have been it. Like, they wouldn't even have went to her. So that shows,
But
again,
what happened
about reputation
is
and
I kept my relationship with her, and I built a new relationship with him, which increased my political power, because now I'm working with two camps. I got two camps of people.
Not only that, it says something to him that you wanted to speak to her first. Because if you just tell him, hey, I'm with you now, in the side of his mind, he got to be thinking like that's who put him in the game, and he's not even gonna go have a conversation with, you know what I mean? So
exactly. So long story short, did the campaign. Nobody thought he was going to win. He was in last place when I joined the campaign. We won. Nobody thought he was going to win, and the first person I went to see the next day after we won was Janie Blackwell. I went to her office. She gave me a hug. She said, congratulations. She said, you did it. I don't know how y'all did it, but you did it. And she said, the only thing that I got to say is just to make sure that he don't screw you. Make sure that you get your. So even then, she's still being a mother, right? Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't care about, I don't like him, but I ain't worried about him. I'm worried about you, right? Yeah. Make sure that you get yours. So I went into Michael Nutter's administration in the mayor's office of community services. The mayor's office of community services was the city's anti-poverty agency. It's its community action agency. When Lyndon B. Johnson started his war on poverty in 1965, 1964, mm-hmm. he created community action agencies all across the country. The mayor's office of community services was one of them. That was still standing. And basically what I wanted to do is go turn the office around and have it fulfill its purpose, because it wasn't at the time. So I went in as the deputy executive director. The executive director, after a year and a half, had left and got a job at St. Joe's University. Then I became the executive director, and I was there for like 4.5 years. And over that time, one of the things that we did is we managed a lot of grants. So we managed like $7 million in grants that we put out to other nonprofits. So when I was thinking about what did I want to do after Michael Nutter's 8 years are up, because usually the mayors get their pick, right? So after 8 years, the new mayor's going to bring in their guy, right? when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, I'm looking at the nonprofit sector and all the things that I'm doing to help them through my office. And I'm thinking I can probably do that a little better than what they're doing it out there. I think there's a different way of approaching this work, and I don't see anybody out there doing it. So if I get a chance, I'm probably going to take my crack at it. And I got my chance through Diversified Community Services.
Let me
Diversified Community.
let me ask you a
Go ahead.
question overall, because the one thing that's that runs through or pokes its way through the story is that you've always had a community first mindset.
Yeah, always.
Where did that come from? How was that? Was that something that was instilled in you as a kid, or was something that you like? Where'd that come from?
Well, I mean, it started from my teachers dating back when I was in middle school at Robert Vaux Middle School. I went to Vaux Middle School at 24th and Master. Um, in fact, that's where I met Salone Thomas L, where he was my chess coach. But there's also other teachers that I still stay in contact with now. Miss Florence Johnson, who was my guidance counselor at at Vaux, and she's also become like a mother figure. She saw like almost like my second mother. She was responsible for getting me into the high school of engineering science. She followed me all the way through college. Got me my first computer. Um, they were at my wedding. All of that stuff. Way back when I was young, when I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. For some reason, they saw it in me. They saw greatness in me, and they told me all the time that I was destined to be great, that I was destined to lead our people. I was destined to get out of North Philly. But when I do get out, don't forget to throw that rope back. They told me that from the very beginning, since I was a kid. And I've always done it. Even when I left Fox and I went to high school, I was still coming back to Fox and working with the other kids on the chess team that I used to be on, mentoring them, right? When I went off to college, I was still coming back to my high school, mentoring those kids, throwing the book back. That was always instilled in me from the beginning, from educators, Black educators who could have taught anywhere, but they chose to stay in the hood and teach people like me.
Wow,
And
that's dope. That's dope.
so they always instilled that into me, and it was always in me to always, kind of keep that community mind in place.
Yeah, that resonates. Here's a
Yeah.
question for you. Because you were on the chess team. What did chess do for you personally?
Oh, it changed my life. So look, if it wasn't for chess, I might have been like Corey.
Uh,
Oh man.
hey man, I was raw in those days, man. I was the
Yeah.
rawest on the streets, man.
I tell you, before the like seventh grade or whatever, I used to get suspended for fighting. So I was always smart, but I was always small. And I come from a rough family. I come from a family that, came up during gang warring times. They was involved in that. Like, if you was a Bullock, you had to know how to fight. You had to know how to hold your own, right? Because you can't come running home, because you're gonna get your ass whooped back at home, and they're gonna take you right back out there. So I come from that type of family. So I would fight at a drop of a hat. And a lot of my teachers were always concerned about that, because I was smart. Like, you're looking at my test scores, everything in the 99th percentile. I was mentally gifted. I was doing a mentally gifted program, but at the same time, I would whoop your ass, and I mean like bad. Um,
I just spelled that out. I mean, like bad.
yeah,
I
no,
got you,
because
though.
my father. I'll give you an example. When we were down the bottom, we used to have a supermarket right up on Haverford Avenue. It burned down in the late '80s. But I remember coming back from the supermarket, and there was a project that was like a half a block from us, the Mantua projects, and guys from the projects, they jumped on me, whooped me up real good, because I couldn't fight them because my hands was full, and I couldn't come home without having the stuff that my pop sent me to go get, right? So it's like you got to take that one. You got to take that one for the team. So I get home, I'm all busted up, and my pop was like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "Well, they trying to, take the stuff that I went and got for you. I still got it, pop." But he was like, "All right, I got something for them." So he goes down to the basement, and he comes back up with a golf club, and he gives it to me, and he said, "Next time you see one of them, right, you run up on them and you wear their ass out." No, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I got
that's
you.
what. So my house is literally like between like the projects and the supermarket. So it was no way that they was going to go to the supermarket and I wasn't going to see them. So I'm sitting in the window with the golf club, waiting to see somebody. And when I see them, I run out the door and I'm chasing them and I'm whacking them with the golf club. Because that's what my pop taught me. And he's running, going, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I know it was you because you wouldn't know why I was hitting you." It wasn't you, right?
He giving himself up.
Giving yourself up, right? So I mean, I'm talking about it was like that, right? And my teachers was trying to get me out of that mindset because that mindset was going to be the only reason that I wouldn't make it. It wasn't academics, right? I was killing the academics, but I was going to mess around. I was going to be in jail. I was going to hurt somebody, or somebody was going to hurt me, and it'd be all for naught.
But
So
what's interesting about that is how many young brothers you think that are out there like that now that just don't have someone to kind of like bring them in, that probably like just mentally have it, but because of where you grow up, like your environment, it does something to you. It hardens you. Like,
it did.
just growing up in it, you don't even have to be involved in anything, but just growing up in the hood, you have like
Yeah.
certain sensibilities. Like, so it just makes me think about how many like young brothers out there right now, and I speak to them
It's a
specifically.
lot of traumatic
And what's crazy,
experience.
Yeah.
right now, I serve kids just like me, right?
Yep.
And I can relate, and they can relate, right? If I had let law school change me, there's no way we'll be able to relate. There'll be no way I'll be able to have a conversation with them, right? But now I can walk into a room of 30 teenage kids that have gotten in trouble for whatever they gotten in trouble for, right? And it's our job to turn them around and get them right on the right track. And we're sending kids to college now. I mean, we just sent a couple kids to college that had gotten into trouble. They got locked up, and now they just graduated from high school, going to college. But I'm able to walk into that room and now have credibility and say, "I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through." Because me, myself, even with the fancy suits on and everything, I've been there, right? I know what it's like to get out of school and not feel safe, and you feeling like, "Damn, how I'm going to get home?" And home is 10 blocks away,
Yeah.
right? And I got to get through all this shit before I get there.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got a gun. I've been there.
Yep.
So, but what I'm able also to do is show them that it's light on the other side of the tunnel if you navigate this the right way. Right?
Not even to sound cliche, it's about like being strategic and playing chess, not checkers, right?
And playing chess, and that's why chess changed my life, because what chess did for me, one, it calmed me down. Like I don't get as upset about things like I used to, and it also got me focusing. And then what L taught me is how to take what you're doing on the chessboard and apply the same things to life, right? So look, I learned how to avoid fights that I didn't have to be in, right? You can't avoid every fight, right? But one of the things that my pop taught me, because he's from the streets, and my dad didn't finish high school or anything like that, so the only thing he knew was how to survive in the streets, right? And he said, "Well, when you get into a fight, you're not just fighting the person that's in front of you. You're fighting everybody else who's watching. The way you're going to get into fewer fights is that you use that person in front of you as an example," right?
That's real. No, that's
so,
real.
so everybody else be like, "I don't want none of that." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I took that, and I'm like, well, when there's nobody else around to see, I don't need to have that fight
Yeah.
at all. I don't need to have it at all because ain't nobody there to see, right?
These are
So
the facts.
so I learned when to fight, when not to fight, when to set the example, when it's not even necessary to set the example. Because I used to be known as being a little dude that always had heart. That's like, he got a lot of heart. He'll fight anybody. And I used to be that kid that will fight anybody. You come up and say, hey man, you want to rumble? Well, I put them up. We gonna rumble. We can rumble wherever you want to rumble. By the time I got to be like 15, 16 years old, I'm thinking like, I'm only a couple of years away from getting out of here, from going to college, right? Maybe I can avoid some of this stuff. I ain't gotta have every fight. In fact, I've been fighting so much, people already know I can fight. Like, I don't need to show nobody. I ain't gotta prove nothing to nobody, right? So then I start thinking like that. So now you're on the basketball court, you and whomever get into an argument, you know, and he's like, well, you know, it always goes here when you can't beat me in fighting.
Yo, that's some real Philly stuff. That's some real Philly stuff. And you just cook me on the court. You can't beat me though.
Right. Yeah, you can't beat me though. So then that's the moment of truth, right? That's when everybody stop, everybody look, everybody want to know what you're gonna do, right? You can fight, or you can not fight and be a punk. I found a way to do neither, right? Not be a punk, but also not fight, by making him look silly for wanting to fight. Man, fuck out of here, man. It's stupid. You want to fight over a basketball game? I ain't fighting on no basketball game. Get out of my face, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you've been in enough fights, so that actually means something.
I make myself bigger than the fight. I'm too big to fight.
Yeah. That's man, listen, it's so many lessons in what you're telling. Like, your whole story is amazing because, listen, and I know we have people that watch from all over, but if you're from Philly, you know exactly the places that he's giving you when he tell you where he comes from. Like, Corey, I know, like, when he tells you the neighborhoods and blocks, I already know it.
I grew up 4 blocks from there, so I know exactly what he's talking about. I grew up at 20th and York, so I grew up 3 blocks over.
So my point, my point is, we know what it is, but we also know that, you know, ENS, everybody can't go to ENS. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
everybody can't.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so we already know what that is in terms of the academic. So,
and guess what? My son, my 12-year-old son is about to go to ENS this fall.
Hold up, 12-year-old.
Yeah, so ENS got a middle school now. They start in the 7th grade.
Oh, okay, that's dope. I'm about to say, dang. Okay.
Yeah, that's that Temple outreach.
Oh, that's dope.
So they started in 7th grade now, and my son is about to go there, and I'm so proud. You know, it's like he's following in my footsteps.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. I had a lot of friends that went to ENS. Like, so me and Corey both went to Central, but I came from Ivy Leaf, and in Ivy Leaf, a lot of people went to ENS. That's one of the school was Central ENS. Like, you know, so man, listen, this story is just amazing. So now you're working in the community, you're still serving the people. You know, you're highly educated, smart, intelligent brother, but you're using those gifts to give back to your own people. So you're kind of like, you still somehow found your way doing what you wanted to do from the get-go.
I found my way doing it. I just found a way to do it a different way.
Yeah.
And I love the way I do it now because I'm right here on the ground with the people. I live with the people. I work in the people. My office is right there on Point Breeze Avenue. It's in Point Breeze. When I'm walking up and down the street in Point Breeze, you know, folks be like, "Yo, Mr. Bullock, you're doing a good job." And even when they don't think that I'm doing a good job, they can come up and tell me that too. And to me, that's really keeping it real, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's amazing, man. So along this journey, let me ask you this question. What is the biggest hurdle? Now, you're giving us some in terms of like your temper and learning to control that.
Yeah.
Would you say that's your biggest hurdle, or would you say something else is your biggest hurdle that you had to get over to bring you to where you are today?
The biggest hurdle really was making it to college. Like I felt like once I made it out of my parents' household and actually made it to college, something I never really knew if it was going to happen. You know, teachers talked about it, we talked about it, but you know, you live like day to day in the hood, right? And you never know if you're going to survive that day. And especially during my teenage years, I lived my teenage years scared as hell. I was scared that I was going to hurt somebody or somebody was going to hurt me, and I was never going to make it. So when I made it out, that's when I told myself, man, if I could do this, like everything else is easy. And that's the way I approach life right now, right? I'm playing with house money right now. I've already done more than anybody ever expected. This is house money.
Yep.
So
Same
it
hood,
makes it,
same thing.
yeah, it makes it easy for me to go hard for my community because I ain't got nothing to lose. I already gained
I already
everything.
won. I won
I
already.
already won. I already won. So the hardest thing was actually making it out, and that's why I work with these kids, because I understand where they're coming from. That's the hardest thing, just making it out. You just trying to live, like literally trying to live.
Man, that's powerful right there. Yeah, that's powerful right there. All right, so another thing I want to ask you is what, and I don't use the cheat code. We already know you're in the book, so you can't say this that book. But what book? Any other book that has inspired you along your journey? Something that you can like think back to that that you read that changed your life in any way.
There was the first two black books that I've ever read was The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois,
WEB.
and the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. Um, those two books was given to me by a black attorney when I was 15 years old. I was interning at his office, and he was into rare black books, and specifically W.E.B. Du Bois. He gave me those two books as a Christmas gift, and up until that point, I had never read a black book. I've read many books, but never a black book, because I only read the books that the schools gave me, and they didn't give us black books to read.
Yeah.
And when he gave me those two books, and I read those books, um, those books really changed my life, and it really made me immerse myself in our black culture, in our black literature, and I read everything black that I could possibly read. Um, that really changed my outlook on life, and how I view our community, and what are tactics that we can even use to uplift our community.
Man, great. Those are two great choices. Those are classic books, classic literature right there. Um, so what does the future hold for Otis Bullock Jr.? What's your future look like? What are your plans or some of the things that you want to get into or something that you want to accomplish moving forward?
Well, right now I'm working on a merger. I'm working on merging my organization with another organization in South Philly. So my organization operating budget is about $5.7 million. We have 120 employees, and the other organization is about $4.5 million with 80 employees. Together, we'll be about 10 million strong, with almost 200 employees to
Nice.
do this work that we do. I believe we got to become a resource for our community, and we can't be in position to always be begging people to help us. So we gotta be in position to build our communities ourselves.
Do
So
for self.
yeah, so through my nonprofit, I just try to be a resource. We're stationed in Point Breeze. 65% of our employees are from that community. Um, we're a predominantly black organization now. We're black led. We have a black board chair, and with the resources that we have, we're able to hire black people. We're able to contract with black vendors. Um, we're able to build in a predominantly black community. So I want to become bigger, and I want to take my model that I have going on down in Point Breeze, and kind of pepper that in some other communities in Philadelphia that don't have the type of resources that we have.
Yeah, that's amazing work right there. Because institutions matter, right? So all
That's right.
institutions, educational institutions, nonprofit institutions, and a lot of times people sleep on the nonprofit sector, but
They
Their
do.
you can
businesses,
make it.
their businesses in our neighborhoods.
Right.
It's part of owning your neighborhood is owning the businesses in your neighborhood. Those nonprofits are businesses. Their jobs being had, and like you said, you got 200 people with this
Yeah.
merger working, in that community.
And doing work
And
that's needed. And that's important too.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, they're predominantly run by white folk. So that goes back to your original question of how is it that you never heard of this organization before me? This organization it's been around since the late 1800s. It's always been a predominantly white organization, but you know, I made it black. So,
Keep it a bean. That's why you my man's in them.
I like that. I think we found a show title, Corey. I made it black. No, because that's powerful, right? So it's always this debate about doing work outside of the structures, the organizations versus getting your way in and doing the work that needs to be done within. To me, the answer is we need both, right? So
we need both.
you need entrepreneurs and people to build new things, but you also need people to get within those walls to navigate, because you rearranged an entire organization that's been around. You said since the 1800s.
Yeah.
So this is an organization that was here, like, I don't know how far back in 1800, possibly slavery, but definitely Jim Crow, definitely civil rights. And now it's a black facing organization. That's powerful.
And now when people say Diversified Community Services, they got to say Otis Bullock.
Yeah.
And they don't remember anybody else, do they?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So so the fact is, you've like went inside and changed an entire organization. That's powerful, and it's history. You made history. You're the first black executive director, man. So first off, salute and congratulations. And much success to everything that you got going forward, man. Because I think the people will learn a lot from this interview here. For one, how the assets that you use is your reputation. Your reputation is everything.
Absolutely.
And also how you treat people. How you treat people. You're respectful and honest about what you were doing. So you navigate that way. How politics plays a part, business plays a part, mentorship plays a part, and always stay community first. And I think all of those are lessons that I personally took. So one of the great things about this podcast is we try to do this to showcase people, but I learn a lot from everybody that comes through here.
Right.
And yeah, so I love to hear stories like yours because like I said, I know the neighborhood you come from and I see the success, and now I get to even read about you in a book. I didn't even know until we had this talk. And the funny thing is I would have read that and say, "Oh, Otis," like, you know what I mean? Like, and never put that together. So man, this is pretty dope, man. Listen, man, Corey, anything you want to say before we get out of here, good brother?
I appreciate my good brother's time, man. We grew up, not far apart. You know what I mean?
Right.
Difference of 5 or 6 blocks, man. And to see two of us, in a situation where we can, do powerful things to help other people, man, it makes me, proud. You know what I mean? Like, just to see you in the positions that you are in, you know what I mean? We went through a lot of stuff together, man. And so
that's right.
You know what I mean? And so, this is one of those joyful moments. You know what I mean? Like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, for real, you know what I mean? Like,
no, it is, because here's the power in this to me, right?
We do a lot of the same work.
Yeah.
From different angles. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Because I'm still full steam ahead.
You're community first. I get that.
No,
but
yeah,
but to me, what's powerful about this is you two connecting on a college campus, right? Two people that come from where you guys come from. And college kind of brought y'all together because it shows that we can dominate and make connections in any space that we're in, right?
Yeah, we went to a PWI. It was 96% white when we went there.
Oh yeah,
so we linked up, but we lived on an all-black floor, so that was.
So 96%, but y'all was still segregated, huh?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, man. So listen, for the folks out there, man, I hope you've taken something from this episode. Make sure that you share it. I'm going to put Otis's social media contacts and everything that he has going on within the description box. So you can take a look at some of the work that he's doing in the community. Nonprofit is something that, you should be looking at, right? So people talk about building businesses all the time, but, as someone who's an avid reader, when I look at some of these nonprofits, right, and this is a whole different angle, and I see what some of these CEOs and nonprofits are making, I'm like, hold up. This is a whole other side that's never taught to our people, right? How you can actually do good, but you don't have to take a vow of poverty to do good. You really don't. And if you
I knew that too.
Yeah.
The United Ways.
Man, you just stole my next point. I was going to say, if you want to see, look up who the executive director of the United Way makes. Look at his salary.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So you can actually do good. But nonprofit is something that we need. We need nonprofit organizations in our community, about our community. We need to build everything. Right. You know what I mean? So, but make sure you check out what Otis has going on. Make sure you share this, hit the like button. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify, because we're all over the place, make sure that you give us a good rating and leave us a comment. Tell us how you feel about it. Otis, man, again, my last words to you are just keep doing the work you're doing, man. Congratulations and salute for, making it to where you are thus far. And, we're going to be rooting you on and try to give you help in any way we can, good brother.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to the people out there, as we always say, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.